I am Marwan Cameron, and this is the Conduit. It is Monday, everyone. Monday, April 5th. We are in a new month. It is the first Monday of the month. You already know how I love Mondays. So let's go ahead and get started. The first quarter of 2021 is over. I got to tell you, this year is fast moving, really quickly moving. A lot going on. You feel like you have time, and everything seems to have stood still in 2020, but things are going rather quickly. Rob, I know that you're out there watching me. Just tell me how my volume is there on Facebook, if you will. I'm using a new service, trying to improve, and that's something that's important for us to continue to try to bring quality with the quantity that we provide. So, there's several things to go over today. There's been a lot of developments that are going on that I want to share with you. So I should just get right into it. I will let you know we have a number of interviews this week. Let me get into my calendar here. I'm already off of my agenda that I've created for myself. But we have 2x2 studies, which will air tomorrow. And I believe that's going to air tomorrow morning. And so that will be with myself and Reverend Michael Ellington. So stay tuned for that. Do set your alerts, as we will be broadcasting live tomorrow, which will be fantastic. And we will get into it a little bit tomorrow as to, me joining 2x2 studies and what we hope to gain, what our outcomes are for that project of collaboration, which I'm really excited for. So stay tuned for that. And then on Wednesday, we have a very special guest. We have Bremerton's Tracy Flood. I believe she has a super long bio. So many of you know Tracy Flood as a pillar in the community and a fierce advocate. So we'll have a conversation with her. That will be from 12:30 to 2. So it'll be a special afternoon broadcast. And she is tremendously busy. So the fact that we're able to get her to come on and have that amount of time free is awesome. So tune in for that. That will be Wednesday, April 7th at 12:30. And then on Friday, we'll see how Friday goes. I have been invited by Tracy Flood to possibly join the board for Kitsap Community Resources. So I was honored by that. And so I will be attending that board meeting this Friday coming up at 5:30 p.m. And so normally our show is at 6:30. So that Friday we may push it off a little bit. Also, as you know, on Fridays, we have our new series going on, right? As I shared with you, I am a big comic book fan, and the folks that are around me are big fans also. And so, right now as Falcon and Winter Soldier, so, we do all this work in the community and taking care of our families. And, it's a lot of hard work. So you got to find some ways to unwind and some self-care, which is important. And for me, that's a great way to do that. As I said before, I really miss being able to go to the movie theater. That's one of my very favorite things to do, either with a group of people, if they can be quiet, or by myself, and to get my popcorn and, sneak my candy into the theater and watch the movies. So that is my thing. That's the one thing that I'm definitely looking forward to getting back to as things kind of open up. And so, oh man, I can't wait. I was going to try to see, I don't even know if C-Film is open, but I was going to try to see, what's that, King Kong versus Godzilla in the theater. But I had a lot to do on Sunday, so I decided, you know what, I'll just watch it here, and I'll just watch that for Easter Sunday. So, it was a good watch. I'm not really a big fan of that particular type of genre, but pretty much at this point, any type of big blockbuster film will do. I'm just starving for it. So it's like, bring it on. Shout out to Pastor Mac yesterday for his Easter sermon. Said a couple of things that sat with me. So, we'll have that kind of tie in tomorrow in our 2x2 studies, which is, like I said, with Reverend Michael Ellington, and that'll be tomorrow. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And that should be really good. And like I said, I'm really looking forward to, finding ways to have conversations with the community. As many of you know, I feel like, the church, especially the black church, has been fractured from my viewpoint and the viewpoint that a lot of people share with me. And in order to identify what's going on in the community and why there's been this divestment from the church, what are some things that can be done to start having those conversations again, right? And regardless of whether or not someone actually joins the church, right, we all need to find ways to work together to move forward. So if nothing else, then a space for people to collaborate and do good things in the community. So as I said, it is time to do that. I'm excited to do that work, and I'm excited for those that have expressed interest and have already started to kind of put those things into motion. So, please do participate in that, especially, our men that are out there that just maybe are going your own way and feel a little disenfranchised, or even if you don't, you never really went to church, or, you have had a bad experience with going to church, tune in, have some conversations. I think a lot of, for me, from my viewpoint, I kind of look at, holy books as a tool, as a resource, right? Think about it in academic terms and the parables that are in there and the things that you can take from that and apply to your life to better yourself for self-improvement. And so that's the way that you can look at it. People can look at it in a lot of different ways. There's lots of different denominations of the Christian faith, and on and on and on. And people can read, the same Bible verse and have 50 different interpretations of it. And so ultimately, what is it that you are trying to do? What is your purpose? If you're looking to help set yourself some goals and some direction, I think this, like many other tools, can be very powerful for you. I just encourage you to, check it out. Ask questions. I think a lot of times, the format of a church is you come in, right? You hear the music, you get the sermon, you get prayer, and then, it's time for you to go. But there's not a lot of, question answer opportunity there, especially unless maybe you're going to Sunday school. And depending on what Sunday schools you go to, that still may be the format, right? There's a little curriculum that they're sharing with you. And it could be that person may not have the answers, or, maybe they do, but it's not the time because, it's happening right before church actually starts. So there's not that time to really go in depth, right? And so then there's Bible study, and there's, busy times, and all those things are there, right? So, I just think we need those spaces to start having those conversations and kind of see what comes of it. So, a couple things. I want to kind of bring you the news. Let's see what's going on here. Get myself together. All right. So, shout out to Cynthia Brady. Cynthia has set up a donation, which is for Gather Together, Grow Together. So I do appreciate Cynthia setting that up. And Cynthia's birthday is coming up, so she has chosen Gather Together, Grow Together. So I want to send a shout out and a thank you to Cynthia for doing that. Again, there are so many different nonprofits and organizations that are out here doing great work, even her own, right? And she chose us this year, so that is very profound and special. Also wanted to mention this year, and every year about this time, we are coming into the Kitsap Great Give. And this year, we are, let me see if I can put this into the camera a little bit. Let me go back to my other feed there. We are organization 109 this year. So let's see if I can kind of show you that. So this is the Kitsap Great Give. This comes out every April where you can donate. And as I said, right, there are a ton of different organizations that are just right here that you can donate to. So again, take a look at this. This is a mailer that has come out. So if you haven't received this, you should. Oops, there's even more, right? I mean, there are 354 organizations this year, right? So there are a lot of folks that are doing good work. I think, Kitsap County is not one of the bigger counties, but they do a lot of advocacy for different people here in the community. So if you plan to donate, we thank you in advance for that. And again, happy birthday to Cynthia. We really appreciate you selecting us this year for your nonprofit for your birthday. Also, as you know, about 2 weeks ago now, I can't believe how time passes so quickly. I interviewed the ladies from CARE. So we have Kitsap advocating for immigrant rights and equality. And so that is CARE. So do reach out to them. You might like their page, stay informed, find out what's going on in the community. These were fantastic folks that I interviewed. And when I was looking at their website, I came across an open letter. And so, a lot of times, we have conversations with folks in the community, and it's like, you feel like you don't even know what's happening in your own community, right? You're busy trying to take care of yourself. You're navigating a pandemic. You've got your own interest and things that are going on. But all these things are also happening around you, right? And so, my hope is also to start bringing some of this information to you because it is tremendously difficult to try to sift through all the information that's out there and stay up with the current events. But as I said, I was scrolling through their their Facebook, and I came across this open letter. And so it's kind of long, but I wanted to read it because I wanted to know what it was about. And I think it might be important for you to know what it's about, right? And so it doesn't matter how you feel about immigration, whether you're for it or against it or somewhere in between. Education is the key, right? And kind of cutting through the noise. And so this is an open letter to our Kitsap County and Sheriff Gary Simpson. The Kitsap, how do I say that? E-Race, Equity, Race, and Community Engagement Coalition was appalled by Sheriff Gary Simpson's opposition to the George Floyd's Justice and Policing Act, U.S. H.R. 7120. Simpson's opposition is detailed in his letter to the U.S. Representative Derek Kilmer, posted on March 3rd on the Kitsap County Sheriff's Office Facebook page. A Kitsap Sun article on March 8th stated, Simpson said he did not know what was included in the bill, but opposed the 4 elements Kilmer had noted in his post. Sheriff Simpson said he opposed banning chokeholds, if inclusive of the lateral vascular neck restraint, ending no-knock warrants, making lynching a federal crime. Why is lynching not a federal crime? And banning racial profiling. We take exception to the belief that it is unnecessary to end racial profiling because it is already prohibited as harassment, and that it's unnecessary to make lynching a federal crime because it's already prohibited as murder. One Kitsap resident said his comments felt like a slap in the face to the people of color in Kitsap County. I guess my commentary here would be then if it already exists and it's no big deal, then it's a symbolic gesture and really makes no difference to you whether or not they do adopt it. So why are you having an issue with it? That's my thought. Kitsap E-Race Coalition supports legislation at local, state, and federal levels that help disseminate systemic racism and white supremacy in our laws and policing. I do want to get into what exactly is systemic racism and white supremacy in all things, right? Laws, education, employment, housing, yada, 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 right? People throw these words around, and when you try to drill down and say this is where systemic racism exists or white supremacy viewpoints exist, then all of a sudden no one is willing to cop to it. So on the one hand, in general, overall and in its vaguity, just making up words there, oh yeah, white supremacy exists, systemic racism exists, but when you say this is what this looks like in these different arenas, then now there's an issue. So I'm not sure how we are saying that it exists, and then we're kind of denying it at the same time on the other side. And if you are saying that it doesn't exist in that way, then where does it exist? Then point to it for us, right? So I would submit that as a thought. Let me find my space there. Murder, Kitsap County says force used by the police foundation, historically racial policing system transformed. The Kitsap E-Race Coalition fully expects our legislators to do their part to change it. It's important to note that the H.R. 7120, which was passed by the House, will provide federal funding for body cams for local jurisdictions, which Sheriff Simpson has stated are too expensive for a Kitsap County Sheriff's Office. Kitsap E-Race Coalition endorses the use of body cams in all police community interactions. Okay. So I guess I would say here, and, again, I haven't read this, so, I don't want this it may come out that the things that I espouse here are in agreement to the letter. I'm hoping to build on what is here, regardless of what side that may be on. But when I think about looking at it from a very inhuman point of view, as a taxpayer, right, if there is a murder, right, that has taken place, such as the George Floyd case, or there are these lawsuits that the city or the county or someone ends up paying, well, we end up paying that, right? It ends up being taxpayer money. So at the end of the day, I'm thinking, well, the body cams are probably nowhere near the millions of dollars that you are paying out in a wrongful death suit, right? Kind of like the insurance that we have to pay to operate a motor vehicle or do some of the other things, right? That, it'd be great if we didn't have to have insurance, but it's a law that says we do need to have it. So, just my thought there. So we agree with Sheriff Simpson that more and different resources are needed to address community members' struggles with mental health, drug addiction, and lack of shelter. Okay. Here again, we work with a lot of folks that are food insecure, folks that have mental health challenges and are facing drug and alcohol addiction. And we've got to get past just having the talk about these are issues. What are we actually doing about it? We should be funding accessible mental health resources, rehab facilities, and shelters to address these issues rather than criminalizing them. Okay. We appreciated the letter, Sheriff Simpson, and Kitsap Police Chiefs released last year, which stated, as law enforcement leaders, it is our job to put systems in place that give our communities a professional law enforcement service they can trust, to treat them fairly and rely on in times of need. We do that by establishing sound policies, setting clear expectations for conducting and training our officers on the appropriate use of force, de-escalation, and bias awareness. I almost wish that that would have been reversed, right? Because I think that's what we see when it comes to primarily black men, is that it is use of force, when bias awareness and de-escalation techniques, if those were kind of at the forefront, the use of excessive force would be mitigated in most cases. We also appreciated the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs letter to the Governor Inslee and the Washington State Congress last June, acknowledging systemic racism in criminal justice system and recommending improvements, including clear standards to use force, stronger police accountability, building community trust, and including the community in planning and oversight. Again, this to me is stuff that's been happening for decades, right? It's bias training, it's diversity training. I can tell you, worked for the Navy for almost a year last year, and, it was very unpopular to have diversity training. Most people felt like it was a waste of time. They were being forced to go into it. And quite frankly, it wasn't going to change how they felt, thought, or behaved, right? The best that it would do is make them hide who they are, but continue to have those biases and things of that nature. And I'll talk about that at some point in time, right? In my department, I was the only black male out of more than 50 employees, and asked to sit on their diversity and equity panel and group that they had created to address some of those things, right? So, the hope is that folks are moving in the right direction. But again, we don't seem to do anything more but just acknowledging it. Great. There's a stop sign. What are you going to do to go past that, right? So you're acknowledging systemic racism in the criminal justice system. So are you overcharging black and brown people? Are you setting up juries that are not juries of their peers, right? Are you giving them sentences that are not on par with their white counterparts, right? We've heard all kinds of things, right? I'm too pretty to go to jail. I'm too rich to go to prison. We think of, the college admission scandal, right? And we have, black women who have been sent to prison for trying to get their kids into schools or going to different districts. Shout out to Vice President Kamala Harris for that. And, other folks do community service or do a month in Club Fed, and that's it. So, where is this listed as those improvements, right? So, including clear standards of use of force, stronger police accountability. Well, to me, stronger police accountability, you get rid of qualified immunity. Again, if what you're saying is by and large, most cops are good and just want to do the best job that they can, then if you get rid of qualified immunity and you require them to wear their body cams, none of this, they fell off, I forgot to turn it on, all the different things that we've seen. I just watched a video where they were, two cops were slamming a black man's head into the police door, dragged him out of the car, and he is literally sitting on his butt with his head kind of inside the police vehicle and slams his head on there, and then told him he did it to himself. So, and that's on camera, right? It's just craziness, right? But if you get rid of that, I think that the majority of Americans, right, what's reasonable, and again, the jury of your peers, and we've seen how many instances where these criminal activities or government sanctioned violence and murder have taken place. And, the jury acquits, right? The grand jury doesn't even indict. We've seen these things over and over again. So they already have a built-in layer of protection, not to even talk about the thin blue line. So if you have that and it's already set in place, if you get rid of those things and there is no qualified immunity, I think that would go a long way into stronger police accountability. Because again, for those cops that are good, they're going to go and do their job. And by and large, one, it is tremendously difficult to convict a police officer. But two, they're likely to get the fairest of fair trials, if it even makes it there. So building community trust and including the community in planning and oversight. But Sheriff Simpson's comments in his letter to Kilmer contradict both the letter he co-signed last year and the WASPC recommendations. He certainly is not building community trust when he says that measures which would make Kitsap communities of color feel safer are not needed. Oh, and here we go, right? He seems to endorse the status quo for police to use excessive force, police violations of privacy, race-based murders, and racial profiling. To transform policing, accountability must become a practice within law enforcement. We hope that Sheriff Simpson and the officers to whom he refers commit to work of changing course rather than pointing finger at U.S. representatives working to address systemic racism in the criminal justice system. We encourage police participation in programs like PACT, which is the Policing Communities Together, the Squalum Welcome Home Listening Circle, and the Police for Tomorrow Fellowship. These transformative programs create a space for both police, prosecutors, legislators, and those impacted by the criminal justice system to engage in hard conversations about undoing systemic oppression and making justice for all a reality. And I can tell you that I have sat in on some of the listening circles. And while that is a great, I don't know, don't want to say first step because we've been making first steps forever, right? I would say to you is we need to be outcome based in all that we do. So if these listening circles are to create a sense of community and push forward, then how is it changing if they're willing to submit letters and say, hey, no, we don't need to change everything. Everything is fine. So then to me, it's not making a difference, right? Not a tangible difference. So we can talk all day about it. And while we're talking, we've got black and brown bodies rotting in prison, destroying families. And, I'm reading this from CARE, right? And so this is the Kitsap advocating for immigrant rights and equality. And we're watching the tragic and inhuman treatment of folks that are on the border, right? But my question is since the end of slavery and Jim Crow and, the war on drugs and all the other things that we've seen happen, right? Our black men have been caught up in the prison system through the prison industrial complex. And so when you talk about the fact that in the 60s, the black family was the highest percentage of married in America. And now we are one of the lowest. They say that only 1 in 4 black women will be married. And so what happened to our black family? Well, what happened to the black family is we were incarcerated, right? Black men were taken out of the home. They were put into jail and prison, which forced many women to go on to, state services. And then through those state services, they made it to where the black man could not come home to his family. And so she had to basically shun the father, the husband, the support system, and what happens over time, right? So it erodes the relationship in the black community. And so that's what you have. And so we have plenty of our brothers, our fathers, our dads, our uncles that are rotting away in a prison cell. And I'm so thankful that I don't smoke marijuana. And the reason being is this, and, medicinal purposes, I know it does great things for folks, and it should be decriminalized. I don't have any problem with that. What I do have a problem with is when we got caught up in the war on drugs and we getting these mandatory minimum sentences and they're just throwing black men away for these really long prison terms. Now, as you see that these drugs are being legalized, right? We're not being, okay, well, it's legal now. Let's go ahead and let them out, right? They've already been over-sentenced in the first place, right? But they get out. It's legal, but now they can't even get into a space to sell the drugs that are now legally sold by white folks all over the country. But they can go in and they can buy it. It's tremendously offensive whenever I drive past one of these weed shops. Tremendously offensive. That's my thought on it. All right. So where was I? We hope that he will reconsider his stance against H.R. 7120 and come alongside the community to help dismantle systemic racism and the disparities perpetuated within law enforcement. Okay, so I do appreciate E-Race putting this open letter out. And again, these are the things that are happening in our community. So I think it is important that we stay informed. That's why I wanted to read the letter and give you just kind of my raw assessment and feedback on that. All right. So that is CARE. Another thing that I love about CARE too is, one, and I'm not going to remember all the ladies' names. Forgive me, ladies, for that. But as I asked, my question from February to ask everyone during the interview was, what does Black history mean to you? And so one of the ladies was speaking about what Black history meant to her and her researching and learning about, Black culture and the community and what we're impacted by. But she had gone a step further and was actually reading Black authors. And so she was talking about reading Tessa Honey Coates. And, just really tremendously appreciative of that. And we think about, people wanting to understand and learn about us as a community, whatever your community is, if it's AAPI, if it's our Latinx community, if it's our white brothers and sisters, whoever it is, whatever you're trying to learn about. And they're actually going out and taking the time to, not just learn about, just the bad things and the hardships, right? So it's all great. We can learn about slavery and Jim Crow and, police brutality and Black Lives Matter. All that's great, But, to go further and start to read our authors and do things that are not so mainstream, aside from our movies and our music and things like that, that kind of surface of the iceberg culture exposure, and going and reading authors is really awesome. And so one of the things that I learned from them is that I need to be, more intentional on, me delving into, different ethnic groups and going more than just kind of the surface issues that they face and getting a little bit deeper into it. So I do appreciate them for that. And so I did want to take a little bit of time and go into that. I believe if you scroll through here, there should still be the GoFundMe for the farm. So that is probably here. You can also go and look at one of my older posts when I did interview them. That link should still be there if that is still open. I'm just kind of scrolling down to see if it pops up here quickly. But again, a lot of good. Oh, here it is right here. So if you go, it's March 19th at 4:14 p.m. Care and Solidarity with Asian American Pacific Islander Communities, AAPI, and the Cha family. This is for immediate release. Legal fees for Garden Flowers Farm, organized by Emily Zhang. So Gather Together, Grow Together did donate to this GoFundMe. Man, and I can just see Layla and I smelling those beautiful flowers right now. So shout out to them and their work. I think that's great. So let's go ahead and move on to our next topic here. Go ahead and get that ready. Again, remember tomorrow, either tomorrow sometime in the morning or early afternoon, we will be going live, myself and Reverend Michael Ellington, 2x2 Studies. And then on Wednesday, 12:30 p.m., we have Tracy Flood. And then Friday, we will see what's going on. But Saturday, we are definitely going to have our spoiler review of Kong versus Godzilla. So if you haven't watched it, tune in and participate. Get a cup of coffee. We're going to get, we love drinking our coffee or our tea. So we're going to sit back with our favorite beverage, maybe have some snacks, some fruits, some donuts. And we're just going to talk about, Kong versus Godzilla. So like I said, really good, a lot of fun. But we need to do the fun things too. Absolutely need to do that. One of the things that I wanted to share with you also is I wrote an open letter last week, and several men in the community signed on to that letter, including Diana Sullivan, but Drayton Jackson, Daryl Riley, and Reverend Michael Ellington signed on to an open letter to the AAPI community. And Christina Rourke, shout out to her, sent out a response to our letter, and she was impacted by that. I'm not going to share her email because I didn't ask for permission to do so. So I like to keep people's, what they share with me private. I think that is important unless I have their permission to do so. But what I did want to do is go ahead and get into the vaccines, because she is always doing work in the community, and that is part of it. So she kind of talked about the letter a little bit, and then she went right in to talking about the vaccine. Let me try to enlarge this for you so you can see it. I can barely see it, and I'm right in front of it. Apologies for that. And so she's saying, however, it will be important for our economic and social recovery from COVID-19. Staying at home is not sustainable. With variants being introduced, and we do have a new variant here in Kitsap County, we all will still need to wear masks, wash our hands, and get vaccinations administered as prescribed. I'm glad you met with Holly and are on the bi-weekly Equity Collaborative call. Okay. So yes, I did. I was extended an invitation to join Kitsap Public Health. They have a Zoom meeting. I guess it's bi-weekly. I didn't know it was that often. But they are trying to be more collaborative from a equity standpoint. And so I am now part of those calls. And now Holly was supposed to come on to our podcast last Wednesday. So I will see if I can get her on this week to talk about the vaccine. Christina goes on to say, we don't know what brand will be available, but I wanted to share this event with you and to also share it out to the other folks. Okay. She believes that it takes leaders like ourselves to model change, and our personal story is more powerful than any marketing campaign. I do agree with that. And as many of you know, I am still very anxious about the vaccine. I will tell you that I am moving down the yellow brick road on getting the vaccination. But it is scary for me, right? I do have a lot of reservations and concerns, and I would love to be able to wait a little bit longer. I don't know how practical that is, and so we'll just see what happens. But she did want to share this information. So there's going to be a vaccine clinic this Saturday, April 10, at the Marvin Williams Center. Limited appointments are available. Okay. Who's eligible? If you are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that I read, you are eligible. Actually, it looks like there's 7. People who are 60 years or older, you are eligible. Staff and volunteers in congregate living settings. So if you're living with a lot of different people, then you are eligible. Workers in congregate settings, you're eligible. Restaurants and food service, you are eligible. Construction and manufacturing, you are eligible. To my G2 people getting ready to do the Sounders game next week, right? Food service, that is you. That makes you eligible. For my construction folks, you are eligible, okay? People 18 years or older with 2 or more comorbidities, or underlying conditions, obesity, hypertension, diabetes. There's so many different things, right? If you have any questions, you can call 360-377-6000. And you can also click here to schedule your appointment. Now, I thought it might be helpful to go ahead and actually click, because a lot of times we send information to folks and we just say, oh, here's the information, follow it. But we haven't gone to the website ourselves, so we have no idea what this looks like. Is it easy to do? Is it hard to do? Right? We've heard all kinds of stories about the difficulty navigating these websites. So here we're at. I just clicked on the link and it takes us to the Marvin Williams Center Vaccine Clinic. It says, welcome. Marvin Williams Center is partnering with the Kitsap Public Health District and Olympic College Nursing Program to provide COVID-19 vaccinations. Individuals in Phase 1A and Phase 1B, Tiers 1 through 4 are eligible for vaccination at this time. So again, I read all the people that were eligible before. What is new in Phase 1B, Tiers 3 and 4, which started on March 31st, people 16 years or older with 2 or more comorbidities or underlying conditions. I already read that. All people 60 years or older. I read that. People, staff, and volunteers in certain congregate living settings, correctional facilities, group homes, people with disabilities, settings where people experiencing homelessness live or access services, high-risk critical workers in certain congregate settings, restaurants, food service, construction, and manufacturing. Okay, all those things that I read previously. Phase 1B, Tier 2, high-risk critical workers who work in certain congregate settings, agriculture, fishing vessel crews, food processing, grocery stores, corrections, prisons, jails, or detention centers, public transit, remaining first responders. So any of our volunteer drivers, that would be you. People who are 16 years or older who are pregnant or have disability and are high risk for severe COVID-19 illness. Okay. So reading this here, if you're 16 years old and you are pregnant or have a disability. So it sounds like the vaccine is safe if you are pregnant. Phase 1B, Tier 1, everyone 65 years or older, people 50 or older who live in multi-generational households, 2 or more generations living together. This is not intended to include your parents living with their children. Pre-kindergarten through 12th grade educators and school staff, which is great because if we want our teachers to be there and be available to teach our kids, they should have the vaccine. Pre-kindergarten through 12, grade educators, school and staff, and child care workers. Phase 1A, healthcare workers, emergency responders, people who live and work in long-term care facilities. Please only register to be vaccinated if you qualify for at least one of the categories listed above. You only need one. Things to remember on the day of your vaccine. Please bring picture ID if available. Okay? If you don't, still go. Please wear a shirt with short or no sleeves so our vaccinators can easily access your upper arm. Please bring a warm coat or jacket since weather may be unpredictable and there may be a wait outside the building. And then click next to continue on to scheduling. Thank you. Let's see. At this time, we always should read the small print. At this time, there are many unknowns regarding vaccine distribution and administration. Schedules, protocols, and communication may need to be altered or canceled at a moment's notice. Please bear in mind with us while we navigate these challenges. Okay. So we're just going to go ahead and click next. This gives us the map of where the Marvin Williams Center is. This is down at 725 Park Avenue, which is really close to Evergreen Park. It's downtown by Salvation Army. The 7-Eleven down there, the courthouse, the Bremerton Housing Authority, and Kitsap Community Resources, and of course G2. There is some additional information over here on the left. Thanks for visiting our web scheduler. To make an appointment with us, click through the screens on the right to reserve a time and meet with the Marvin Williams Vaccine Clinic. We look forward to servicing you soon. Additional information, managing your own appointments, and need some help. Read the how-to guidelines, booking your first appointment, registering on our scheduler, and canceling or rescheduling an appointment. Now, I understand that Kitsap Transit is also providing free transportation, so hopefully we'll come across that when we're in here. IG2 can provide transportation, but right now there would be a charge for it, so I would reach out to Kitsap Transit first. This is your option here. So this is this says staff, Marvin Williams Center Vaccine Clinic. This is already checked for us, so we're just going to go ahead and click. We are currently offering the first dose of the Moderna vaccine. So I think that's great that they're letting us know what vaccine is available. Each vaccination requires a minimum of a 15-minute cool down time afterward for our staff to watch for any adverse reactions. The Moderna vaccine can only be given to individuals 18 years of age or older. Your second dose of this vaccine will be scheduled 4 weeks from the date of your first dose. First dose on Saturday, April 10. Your second dose will be Saturday, May 8th. Please make sure you're available that day. Okay, so if you have some other things going on, please do make sure that you make folks aware, right? Whether it's that might be a Saturday. I should check that. But whatever day that is, just make sure that you get people in the loop so they know that this is really important for you to get that second dose. As you can see, there are still times remaining, right? So there are 9 seats for the 10:30 a.m. There are 10 seats for 11 a.m. and there are 12 seats for 12 p.m. Okay, so there are still 30 available appointments this April 10th. So it looks like it is that easy. And again, I'm not going to click next here because I don't want to take up a spot, but it appears to be that easy. So please take advantage of that. If you are ready to be vaccinated, there is transportation there. You can go ahead and schedule. There are plenty of seats available for April 10th. Okay, go on down, get your vaccine. And I think for me, as I said before, I have my apprehension, but I'm trying to read the tea leaves, right? And see what they're saying in the community and looking at human behavior as far as folks in the country, right? We see in spring break, people have, they're out partying, they're not wearing their mask. We see that people want to fly. So the airlines have been tremendously busy. I think they've been busier than they have been since the pandemic has started. So now you have people moving about the country and moving about, outside our country, right? Which is how these, mutated variants get in here, right? And how these things spread. So for those two reasons, that encourages me to really move toward taking the vaccine, right? Also, there's been lots of different talk about what you're going to be able to access, right? Needing a passport to move about the country, maybe needing some kind of proof in order for you to maybe enter certain buildings or access certain services or things of that nature. Um, and so to me, it looks like they are going to incentivize you, if you want to look at it as the carrot to get the vaccine, or the stick would be to de-incentivize you from not getting the vaccine. And so, I don't know how difficult that it's going to make people's lives if you don't become vaccinated. I do know from the conversations where it doesn't seem likely that we're going to hit herd immunity, because we need so many people to become vaccinated in the country, and there's still so many people that are either hard no or on the fence like I am. And so we're not going to hit that, right? And so if the attitude is, well, I'm on the fence, I'm not going to do it, they'll get the vaccine and then we'll have herd immunity and we're fine. There's too many people that have that same attitude, so we'll never reach herd immunity. So I think that's really important. And that was a question that I think I posed at the last meeting for the Kitsap Equity for, public health services. So, because I was wondering about that, right? So it's like, well, look, if all these other people are getting vaccinated, why do I need to get vaccinated? If I don't, herd immunity will be achieved and then I'm okay, right? And they're like, well, no, there's so many, the percentage of people that feel that way is too high. So we would never actually achieve herd immunity. If you do have questions, and I gave you the phone number that you can reach out to, if you feel more comfortable reaching out to us, I will go ahead and ask those questions on your behalf and get back to you. The most important thing is that you get answers. I will tell you, if I do get the vaccine, I may get it on on camera just to show that I received the vaccine, and kind of track that, right? I do a podcast, mostly every day, so you'll be able to see, what I go through and what that looks like. And so, for those of you that know, I have several comorbidities, right? I'm an obese black male. I have hypertension, right? I'm on blood pressure medication. I have a lung disease, which is called sarcoidosis. And so COVID attacks the lungs. And so that's one of the main reasons why I'm very isolated myself, even more so than just the things that I already deal with. Because if that, attacks my lungs, it is very likely to take me out. And so with all that, as I said, I'm definitely nervous and have some anxiety about it. Even just talking about doing it creates anxiety. But at the same time, listening, learning, watching colleagues and other folks that I trust take the vaccine, watching the reactions, trying to cut through the noise on what is myth or hearsay versus what is truth. Trying to make educated decisions. My father always told us, go where you're not wanted in regards to services. And so if that was the case, that, they were trying to do something bad to you, then the people that you think are getting it, the rich, well-to-do folks, however you're feeling about that, if those folks are getting vaccinated, then to me, I would say, I don't think it would be a far leap to say, you know what, well, if they're doing it, it probably should be okay, right? They're not gonna, they're in the know, so they wouldn't be exposing themselves to something that would do them harm, right? And there's too many of them out there for them to, cut all those folks out. So just a thought, wanted to put that out there and just kind of go from that. All right. So the other thing that I wanted to tell you is we are getting super crazy busy. We have been tremendously blessed. Like I said, in 2020, so many companies ended up having to shutter their doors, and many will never come back again. Again, we have, this moratorium on eviction that is going to go away. We know that for those of you that got your $1,400 stimulus, I'm sure that was helpful, but not near enough what you needed to be made whole. And you may never be made whole, right? There are people that are still suffering from the '08 housing crisis. If you can imagine still reeling from that and now going through a pandemic, wow. If you've lost someone, if you were one of the 600,000, almost 600,000 people that have died and have been impacted by COVID to that level, or you have these long-term uh, COVID symptoms, right? There's excessive fatigue and all the other things that are there, especially if you're the breadwinner, right? For your family, that is can destroy a household, right? And plunge people into homelessness and all kinds of other really horrible things. So just really important that you start thinking about coming out to whatever this new normal is going to be. I will tell you that we are getting busy. We need help in every facet, right? We need drivers. We need construction folks. We are moving into other phases of different bids. We're doing a few bids at this point. We're doing like one or two bids a week. It seems like right now out there in the community. So there's a lot of work coming in. Our concessions is taking off. We will be doing the Sounders games, and so soon I think there will be concerts and everything else. Probably the NFL this fall. So if you have been cooped up and you're like, man, I'll do anything to get out and just to be around some other folks and just have a couple hours of hearing people yell and scream and cheer for their team. Come and join us for the Sounders game. Right, helps us continue to serve the community. And we definitely need office help, and we sure need social media people, right? So you can see the struggle is real. Do they even say that anymore? The struggle is real. I'm saying it. The struggle is real. I need some help, y'all. This is difficult. This is hard, and there's so many other things that I have to do, and this endeavor is so time consuming, especially as you're trying to learn. And it's like, okay, I learned this, and then this failed, and you got to try to figure this out. And why ain't this camera coming on? And why isn't this doing that? And why does Zoom keep failing? If you remember, in the very beginning, my internet kept dropping. Right? Well, internet hasn't dropped. Let me find some wood. Internet hasn't dropped in a long time, but now Zoom is an issue. So you just kind of work those things out, right? And if you look at my thumbnails, they're hot garbage, need to be worked on, and just all kinds of things need to be done. But at the same time, I'm getting busier and busier myself, right? Trying to run these companies, trying to help the community out, being tapped to, sit on, equity for public health and, board member for KCR. And right now it's just like you're just being hit and flooded with these things. And, I think it's really important for me, to be in these spaces, and this is what I have been telling aspiring leaders that have concerns, right, and don't know quite what to do with how they're feeling, right, and say, hey, harness that energy. And one of the best ways to harness that energy, kind of as Commissioner Robert Gelder was talking about, is just go to the hearings, go sit on committees. Join boards, do those things, because you will be educated and you have thoughts. Many of us have lived experience in being homeless, being low income, working through and struggling with addiction, or whatever the case may be, right? Just trying to make it day to day, being a single parent, whatever it is, right? Dealing with the loss of a loved one or a child. There's just so many different things. Estate tax, right? Trying to eulogize a loved one and still move forward in your life because so many people are counting on you. And as most of you know, I lost my father, then my mother, then my brother, and it was just successive, right? And with my dad, I actually had to have a a funeral on both coasts, right? Because he meant so much to so many people, uh, that had to be done. And but you still have your own obligations and everything else, and it can't stop. And people would ask me, how are you, maintaining? How are you able to keep going forward? What I tell folks is, how do you process it? It's like, well, I don't. I don't have time to process it. So it's one of those things where it's like, do as I say and not as I do. Uh, but that's what I had to do. I couldn't hit the pause button. If you remember when my dad passed, that's kind of when I went on my whirlwind tour. Uh, tried to put it to, oh man, there was so much stuff that was going on, man. I'm looking at some of the pictures from that trip because I have Facebook up, and going to New Orleans and then going and taking my daughter and my grandchildren to Disney World down in Florida, and then going to, where did I go after that? Mississippi to see my bestie, Mina, and then heading up to Virginia and spending time with my aunt and my cousin, and then spending time with my brother down there in Virginia. Then going up to Baltimore and hanging out with my brother and my sisters and my nieces and nephews. Then heading over to Milwaukee and hanging out with Sam. Shout out to Hawk. And then coming back home and then still planning, these funerals. And then my mom passing and having to go down to Arkansas for that. And then my brother being found dead hanging in a jail cell in Kent, right? And we still don't have answers on that, on how that can happen and how you're in a holding cell and there's cameras and they walk by every 10 minutes and that's enough time for you to hang yourself out of sight of the cameras. Yeah, just there's no time to really process that stuff. And then you go from that and now you're dealing with a pandemic. So, oh boy, it is what it is. You just, try to keep going forward. For me, if I was going to share any advice with folks that are going to go through or going through anything like that, definitely try to lean on your circle of support and your circle of influence. I think it's really important for you to do at that time, especially if you are going to tell yourself that you don't have time for mental health counseling, right? Or you're not going to prioritize it because you are too busy, right? We know that we're not typically too busy for anything. It's just, where we put our priorities. For me, my priority wasn't going to be in seeking out mental health. As I told myself, I'm just too busy. There's too many things for me to do. I can function at a high level of stress, not necessarily peak. I'm not a Lambo or a Guinea, as Layla would call it. I might be more like a Yugo. No, I'm probably better than a Yugo. I'm like a Nissan Sentra, but still getting through. And so for me, I was able to use the fact that so many people were counting on me to kind of process through that, right, during my times when I was struggling. So I think that's important. Lean on your folks, have those conversations. Don't hold it in, be honest about how you're feeling. If you need a day, take a day. You don't know how it's going to impact you, when it's going to impact you, to what degree, and just, take what you need, right? And if you have those supports and you have that communication around you, if you need that kind of day to, just try to get yourself back to some type of equilibrium, then do that, right? That was me yesterday, right? Yesterday was Easter Sunday, and so I wasn't with Layla yesterday. And so that holidays are hard when that's the case, for me, but she's got a little sister now, and, that's a big deal for them to decorate the eggs and do their thing. And so I'm home. And so that allows me time to do what I need to do. But if you notice, I didn't put out an Easter message yesterday. I didn't put out the, Happy Easter from Gather Together, Grow Together. Da 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 da. I hope you're having a great day. You know, that post didn't come yesterday. I didn't even go live yesterday. And so I just took my own time, right? A lot of people don't know that I'm an introvert. I'm not an extrovert. I just play one on TV because that is what is necessary for me to do the work that I do in the community. But I could go a whole day and not open my mouth and talk to a soul, and that just suits me just fine. You know, I love to unwind in that way. And so that's what I did, you know. I was able to kind of work on the podcast, and I rearranged the setting. And so if you notice, you know, candles are lit again. So I think I like this way better. You know, we went and started using green screens and all kinds of other things. And it was like, okay, this thing is just getting way too complicated. You're chasing these things and it's like, all right, use this program. And then you send it here. You're going to simulcast to Facebook and YouTube. And then you're going to, you need to do this. And then you're going to have a green screen. And then you can put on pictures of whatever you want or videos. And you got the tickers at the bottom. And you got all these different things going on. Oh, and don't forget to do this and do all that. And, you know, you can actually monetize it and help your organization after you get 4,000 hours of views and 1,000 subs and all this other stuff. And it's like, right? And then you still need content and things that you believe are going to be helpful for the community and trying to create a space for folks and everything else and do all the things. So, you know, it's like, you know, it's a lot there. But I think it's important. You know, I really do believe in it. Creating a space, listening to conversations that I've had with people on an individual basis and how they're feeling. Things that we've seen statistically from the isolation of social distancing and things of that nature. We see that it's all over the news right now. As folks integrate back in with people, they are not doing well, right? It is very violent. We already know about, you know, the stories in the AAPI community. We see the issues and hold on, I'm going to go ahead and let me see if I can take myself off camera here for a second. I apologize, but I am super congested. Woo, that's the one thing about springtime, boy. These allergies are a beast. But we see it, right? There was a story today in, what is that? 10, not 106 in Park. Boy, I'm dating myself. With Charlemagne the God, whatever that show is over there on the East Coast. But there was a woman that went to Burger King and she was waiting for her food and she couldn't wait anymore. Put her head in the window with her gun and started firing her gun off because they were taking too long to fix their food, right? So people are unraveling. And when we talk about mental health issues and what that looks like, right? What does that really look like? Is it sadness? Is it depression? Are people, you know, walking powder kegs? And I don't think we're actually really thinking about the reintegration of folks that have been in this isolated state, right? We know that, you know, domestic violence, abuse, all kinds of issues have increased as people have been kind of locked down together. And it's caused all these issues. But now these things are going to open back up and there's going to be even more stress, right? I've got to integrate with people again. I need to try to find work. Everyone is going to be looking for work. My landlord is trying to evict me. It's going to be all the things. And it's going to be tremendously stressful. And I think that's what we're seeing. And no one is really talking about that, right? They're just saying, hey, look at what's happening. This happened, this happened, this happened. But they're not talking about what the catalyst is, right? And they're definitely not talking about what the solution is. So if all these mental health issues are going on in the community and you're seeing all of these explosive actions from people, either verbally or physically, how are we going to address that? How are we going to address that? I will say, and I'm going to talk about this at some point because a lot of what the news has been showing with our AAPI violence, especially when it's been black men on elderly Asian women, which is just, you know, so I give myself 4 bad words per month. So I don't typically curse. If you're around me, you do hear me curse a little bit more. I just feel like there's too many words in the English language for me to just use words just for the sake of using words. So if you hear me use a word, then I mean it. You know what I mean? Because it loses the point of it, right? And to me, I don't think it's very ladylike for a woman to have a curse like a sailor. Sorry, sailors, if you take offense to that. Rob, I'm talking to you. But yeah, I just think there's just too many other words, right? You use it for emphasis, and it has more of an impact. But we got a vast vocabulary. Use your vocabulary; it's great, and you can use words that are so much more harsh than the other words that those 4-letter words that typically come flying out of people's mouths. If you want to be, harsh. But anyway, I don't think the mainstream media and ergo us kind of as people are saying, okay, look, one, let me digress again. What I've seen and what others have seen from the black men that are assaulting the older Asian women is it a coincidence that many of these men were wearing pink and committing these assaults like right in cameras, right? Almost as if it was, hey, I'm going to wait until I'm in this camera. We're going to get clear pictures of this violent attack. It's just bizarre, right? But aside from the, hey, that's peculiar. What's that about? Why is it happening now? What is the catalyst? What is the catalyst? Is it truly COVID, right? Because why now? Why would the violence increase now? Because if you think about it, right, I would think there would be more violence in the first 6 months when it was new, when Trump was in office and saying the things that he was saying, right? But now things are open back up. We got the NBA, we got the NFL, we got March Madness, we've got concerts, we got the Sounders, we have, restaurants opening back up, we've got travel opening back up, we've got spring break, we've got churches that are open again, we got the vaccine, we've got the stimulus, right? So we have all these positive things that are happening. So why is there this uptick in, fast food workers being shot? Our AAPI family being assaulted violently in the examples that are shown on the news. Why is the escalation now? No one is really answering that question, right? And that's what I mean by when people throw these words around by systemic racism or white supremacy, or what do you mean precisely? What does that look like? And again, we talk about the institution, but we separate the people. Well, the institution cannot stand without the people, but we can't attack the people. How do you dismantle the institution if you're going to not deal with the people that uphold the institution that is set? To me, it doesn't make any sense. We're not going to change anything, right? It's going to be more of the same. We'll have people that will come and do bias training and diversity training. And we'll have our kumbaya, and all the things will just continue to happen, right? Or we'll make these little incremental changes or symbolic changes that really don't amount to much, right? Go back to the open letter. So if these laws are on the books and they're saying, hey, we want to make this a law, but it already exists, it's a symbolic gesture. But in that privilege, I get to say, nah, not needed. Huh. But I'm attending the listening circle, and we're making progress. What progress? What progress? What is it? What is it? If anyone knows or has thoughts, please weigh in. Please weigh in. It's an important conversation to have to really get to what the root is, right? And if you can, try to be specific and not so general, right? Oh, it's the liberals that are doing this and that. What are they doing specifically? Oh, it's the right wing, they're doing this and that. Oh, it's the feminists, they're doing this and that. What is toxic? What is destructive? Specifically, that to me is what is truly important. And in that, as I told you before, one of the big issues is talking about the black male agenda. Everyone has their interest as it is time to elect our political leaders. And these things weren't really pushed forward, right? It's more generalities. A high tide rises all boats, as Kamala Harris said. You know, I'm not going to just do anything for black people. I'll do this and it's going to help all people. But then we see these specific things, right, that are done like that. AAPI community being assaulted. Biden doesn't need Congress to do anything. I'm just going to earmark $50 million to do this, that, and the other. But we've got to have a committee on the committee on the committee for reparations or any other ways to make us whole. But we've had videotapes of government sanction of violence and abuse for decades. But we just can't seem to do anything. A black officer who was undercover at the BLM protest was beat up by a bunch of cops and found not guilty. That's how we make those changes. So again, please be specific. So I'm going to be specific. The black male agenda, one of our issues, the family court reform. And there's a lot to this, but I'm only going to talk about A. The family court's treatment of black men has unfairly and drastically diminished black men and boys' quality of life by privileging women as primary caregivers. So when we talk about child custody, this includes automatic 50-50 child custody as long as fathers can prove what mothers are required to as far as being able to provide a stable and safe living environment. Once determined, pre-existing income-based alimony child support judgments levied against black men should be reassessed. So, as I spoke earlier about the black family back in the 60s being the most together during that time, and the prison industrial complex and the war on drugs, right? And all those things that happened. And then the social services that required that the black man not be in the home with the mother, with the child, in order for the woman to get services, right? That helped to erode the black family structure. And so now you've got a father who is in the wilderness, right? They're working. And as we talk about these things, as we go over B and C and D in future episodes, we have this conversation where people are ready to advocate for $15 minimum wage, right? And that's not enough. $15 minimum wage isn't enough. Well, what is child support? 25%? 50%? Of a man's paycheck. So if he's lucky enough to get $15 an hour and he's working 40 hours a week, that means he's making $600 a week if he's making $15 an hour. You times that by 2, that's 1,200. You times that by 2 to get you your 4 weeks, that's 2,400. Multiply that by 0.8 because you're going to pay about 20% in taxes and your FICA and Social Security and all that. Right? So we're talking about what? 24 times 0.8, about $1,960. Well, the average rent is about $1,000 to $1,100. But if he owes half of that in child support off the gross, how is he going to pay rent? How is he going to pay for food or get to work? How is he going to go to school? Can he go to school? Can he work another job? So no support that's built in, which continues to destroy primarily black men. I'll pull up the housing stats later, but black men are particularly impacted by homelessness in this country. And so this could be one of those reasons. A huge contributor to that. So there's a child, we're not together with the mother, I need to pay child support, and I don't even have a problem with that. I actually want to help take care of my child, but I'm doing the best I can with what I got. I am who I am. This is what I can earn. This is what people are willing to pay me for my skills. Now, if I don't pay, then I get my license suspended. Now I'm driving on a suspended license, but now I can't get to work. Now the tickets are racking up. And we're not even talking about, someone who's dealing with mental health issues, right? Or drug or alcohol addiction. Just talking about the average person just living out here, right? The average black man makes, I think, $42,000 a year, something like that. The average. Again, divide that by 12. Divide that by 12. Not a whole lot of money, especially when you take 20% off of that. I have to make a little chart so you can see it, right? I don't think people really look at that. And what happens is, men are disposable, especially black men. So, well, you made the baby, so deal with it. Work 2 jobs, work 3 jobs. You need to take care of your responsibility, otherwise you're a deadbeat. But there's a ton of programs that are out here for single mothers in a system that has created this situation and this scenario. So what do we do about that going forward? Because a child does need both of their parents. And so whether you are more on a cynical side where you say, hey, you know what? These men need to take accountability. They laid down, they made this baby. They should have put a rubber on. They should have did this, that, and the other. The child is here. And how are we going to break the cycle that exists? We can continue to, in this case, I would advocate for blaming the victim, which is the man and black men. Or we can find ways to restore those relationships, put men in a position to where they can actually live a life and still help to raise their child and remove the barriers and the obstacles that exist. I don't think people look at that, right? Because they're so focused on their own experience, whatever that experience is, right? Hey, look, man, I'm taking care of this child and it's hard. I don't have a lot of support. You're not here with me. This is my experience. And so I don't even have time to see what your experience is. I'm not even hearing that because you're not here trying to help me take care of your responsibility. Doesn't help anything, right? Typically, male is going to become resentful, right? If he can even do anything about it. I just think it's a opportunity for a deeper conversation. It's just not that simple. Just not that simple. But anyway, what else do I want to share before I get out of here for tonight? Because I got an 8:30 meeting. Oh, it's already 8:10. What I will do is I will leave off here. Saturday, again, at 11, we have our Godzilla versus King Kong spoiler conversation. We will also do our Falcon and Winter Soldier spoiler review. So thanks for everyone who joined us on Friday. We did get copyright struck on Facebook, so that's why our feed went down. The volume was a little too high, and so Facebook could hear it, and they were like, you are playing Falcon and Winter Soldier, so that is not acceptable. We're going to have to cut you off. So, I can watch it and just read the subtitles, but when other people are watching, they got several people in the room, they kind of have to have it turned up. So we're going to do a post spoiler review. So, and then we also play a game called Raid Shadow Legends, which is a kind of a PC game. So it's free to play. It's a great thing to kind of do if you're not listening to a podcast or, I'm a big advocate of lifelong learning. So, definitely listen to self-improvement, learn, expose yourself to different things, as with the ladies of care, maybe you pick up an artist or an author from, a different background from your own and get their perspective, like there are Black authors that write sci-fi and things like that, which is pretty cool, and have those experiences. But that's a free to play thing, and you can join clans and help to, do things and have achievements. So it's pretty fun to do. And then, as you know, I also do like playing video games, and, every now and then you'll see me on Twitch, doing some things like that. As time allows, it hasn't really allowed me time lately because I've been so busy. But hopefully I'll be able to fit some time in there a little bit. And then, of course, we have the Layla and Daddy podcast whenever we get a chance to do that. But what I want you to consider is, what are you doing to prepare? What are you doing to prepare? When COVID was such an unknown, and we were stockpiling toilet paper and paper towels and hand sanitizer and water and rice and flour and sugar and potatoes and beans and all these other things, right? Because we didn't know what was what. We didn't know how long it was going to be. We had no answers, and we were just trying to do the best that we could with what we had. What are you doing to prepare for coming out of the other side of this pandemic? What happens when the moratorium on eviction wears off? What are you doing about your housing? Are you talking to your landlord? What is your relationship like with your landlord? Have you tried to find unique ways maybe to barter some of that payment off because you have a skill set and maybe maintenance or repair or childcare or teaching or the mechanic? What are you doing about your finances? What are you doing about employment? What are your prospects? Are you going to retrain? What are you going to retrain in? Is it going to be recession proof? Is it going to be pandemic proof? Is it going to be technology proof? Right? Lots of jobs are going by the wayside. And so I would hate to see folks train in a field that is eroding rapidly and won't be around in 5 years, right? What are you doing about your health? What kind of strategies are you building in now, as we probably are going to become more busy trying to figure out how to put all this stuff together and maintain and thrive? Your health is going to be important, right? That's the one big thing that they've said, right? The black and brown community has been impacted 4 to 5 times more than the white community. You add the comorbidities on top of it. What are you doing to lose the weight? What are you doing to lower that blood pressure? What are you doing to manage your diabetes? What are you doing to help with your alcohol consumption, your cigarette smoking? What are you doing with your mental health? That's an unseen enemy, right? That's stress that's on your body, on your heart. What are you doing there? You've got to start considering these things and take action on it and build that into your new normal so that you can survive what's next. The new normal is not going to be pretty. People are saying that we're not going to be through this till the end of 2022. I've heard 2023. We've heard Bill Gates, who was part of predicting this thing 5 years ago, almost to the day. Interesting. Saying that there's something worse coming along. And again, we're already dealing with variants. And now we've got a mixed variants out of India. What are you doing? When I interview people and I ask the question about friends and romantic relationships, that's about your circle of support and your circle of influence. Again, what are you doing to build, to cultivate, to repair, to make sure, to shore up, to strengthen, to make sure that you have that support for yourself and your family when it gets hard again? What are you doing? You must be intentional. You must have a plan. See, the thing is, if I go back and I say, hey, when I started this conversation, I gave a shout out to Cynthia Brady for choosing G2 for her donation. Then I talked about the Kids That Great Give. What are you going to do? There are 354 organizations. And then you have all the individual people who also need help. So the churches, the nonprofits, the community-based organizations, we're all tapped. There's just not enough for everybody. And you can see our government is slow. And it's usually too little, too late. So I do implore you, start working on those relationships. Start meeting people. You've got to be intentional. You've got to be intentional, folks. Please. All right. Well, I think I did pretty good tonight. Hour and 33 minutes. Not too bad. I hope you found this educational, informative. Hope there's a piece that you can use out of this. Please subscribe, like, and share. Tell folks about it. Watch it. Subscribe. Set your alerts. I will continue to try to bring you content that is purposeful in your life, even if it's to make you smile or not to feel alone. I am Marwan Cameron. This is the Conduit. Also, apparently the libraries are open again. That is awesome. I will see you tomorrow. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro.